Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at what mods I've done to my bike. I'm going to list the pros and cons, and in the end I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for what mods to do to turn your bike into an awesome lightweight adventure bike. As you might already know, I've done a few mods to my bike. Let's have a look. I've done those two, yep, that one, that, yeah, oh yes, that, handlebars, yep, screen, yep, tyres, yep, that, yep. And what about the last one? I did something else, what was that? Oh yeah, I remember now, that one. Okay, let's take a look at them. So in no particular order, let's start with the seat. As you can see, I've recently purchased a Seat Concepts foam and cover. I didn't buy the complete seat because I didn't want to wait. They're having supply chain issues still, and there's a long wait on the complete seat. I was able to put the foam and cover on myself, and I think I did a pretty good job. Now, as well as looking amazing, this seat feels super comfy. It's also firmer than the stock seat, so you don't sink down into it. It lets you sit a little bit higher, which I like. All in all, a great purchase. Now, the pros, comfort and looks definitely. The cons is the price. Now, I'm going to list the price as a con for all of them because let's face it, for some of us, money is an issue and we need to think about what mods we're doing. The next thing we're going to look at is this little adjustable screen that I've got on the top of the standard screen. You can see it right here. It's fully adjustable and really easy to do. You just unlock it and then you can simply move it into whatever position you want. There it is in the down position, and in the down position where I have it off-road most of the time, I have it up when I'm on the freeway, but in the down position you hardly notice it at all. Just look at that. When you're riding, you don't even know it's there. Now the pros, no buffering, easy to use, folds out of the way. I really like it for throwing the air when I'm on the freeway straight over my helmet, and it makes the bike very, very comfortable on the highway. The cons, again, the price, but it's pretty cheap. I'll put the link in the description below where I got all these, so if you want to have a look at any of the products, have a look through the description, and hopefully the links work for you. Okay, now we're going to have a look at the rack that I'm running on the back. This rack was actually on the bike when I bought it, but now I've used it, I really like it. It's one of the ones from Barkbusters in Thailand, and it's small, lightweight, really strong, and just a good design. It's got these little, what would you call them, knobs at the back for tying straps and things on. It's got these really good grab handles on the side, good for manhandling the bike. The rack itself is small and out of the way, so when there's nothing on it, you're not hitting your legs or anything when you're getting on and off the bike. It's a good size for running just a small tail bag. It's strong enough to have, you can see there, it mounts really simply just with these two bolts on the side. But as I was saying, it's strong enough to carry any big bags. The pros, it's lightweight, strong, and the grab handles are really good. The cons, it's $110, but really it's not too much at all. Overall, good purchase. Okay, while we're at the back of the bike, let's have a look at this tail tidy I've got on. You might be surprised to know that this is actually the factory tail tidy. When you look at the rear guard extender that you have on your bike, you'll notice that it comes apart. When you pull it apart, if you put on just this bottom piece, as I've done, you can end up with something like this. It's really strong, lightweight. All you have to do is mount your number plate to it and then just trim the bottom off. I find it's really good. So the pros, free, it's strong, and it looks good. I don't know any cons. That's there. That's just where I've trimmed it off. Overall, if you don't want to buy a tail tidy, do this. And the next mod we're going to have a look at here is one of my previous videos featuring some Shonky engineering. It is these foot pegs I made. If you have a look at the previous video, you'll see how I did it. It's pretty easy to do if you have a welder, and the results are really good. They are super comfy, cheaper than any other type of rally pegs. The cons are you do need to buy a little bit of metal for it, and you do need to have a welder. But if you can do this, they are awesome rally pegs. Okay, now let's have a look at the front of the bike, the cockpit. As you can see, I'm running a phone here as my GPS, and I've just got a cheap Chinese brand rugged phone that's waterproof and shockproof, and I'm running the OSM Android app for mapping. I find this combination is really good. The advantages are that it's a lot cheaper than a standalone dedicated GPS. OSM Android app is free, and it's actually really easy to use. Once you get used to it, it's a really, really good app. Now, there are a few cons with this. Obviously, you need to buy the phone. So this one cost me about $250. And the other con is it can be a little bit harder to see in direct sunlight, depending on the angle of the sun. But overall, I find it a lot better and cheaper than a dedicated GPS. And you've got all the other functions of a phone as well. You can use your normal phone, but I've bought this phone that I've dedicated just for GPS duties on my bike. While we're at the cockpit and looking at controls, these are the grips I use. These are the Pro Grip foam rally grips. They actually come in two sizes. These are the thin ones because I've got small hands. There are thicker ones with more of a bulge in the middle. But I find these super comfortable. They help with any vibrations that come through the handlebars. The cons are they're $30, but really that's pretty cheap. And they are all day comfortable. I run them on every bike I have, and I fully recommend them. Now let's move over and have a look at the throttle side. So I've done a little bit of Shonky engineering to this side as well. Maybe not engineering, but Shonky modifications. As you can see, I've got the Pro Grip, but just have a look at this throttle movement from fully closed to fully open. You'll see let's have a look at that again. Fully closed, see where my thumb is there. Fully open. That is less than a quarter turn. It's actually a sixth of a turn. Okay, and the advantage of this is a quicker throttle. The bike actually feels quicker because you're accelerating the full throttle sooner, and it's a lot easier on your wrists from going from closed throttle to holding it open throttle, as we do on these smaller bikes, especially on the freeway and things like that. The cons are it can make the throttle a little bit more sensitive, so if you have a snatchy throttle issues, this can exaggerate that. And also it's the price. It's $36. I'm going to put up a separate video shortly on how to do it. It's using a R6 throttle tube. So look out for an upcoming video on how to do that, because it is a really worthwhile mod for these smaller capacity bikes. Your handlebars are a big part of the controls and the comfort of your bike. So let's have a look at what I use. I actually run the Pro Grip Evos in a Henry Reed bend. So handlebar choice comes down to personal preference for what feels good for you. But the reasons I change the handlebars are twofold. For comfort, I actually find these really comfortable for me, and strength. Strength is probably the biggest one. The stock handlebars are very easy to bend. They're made out of steel. So if you have a drop or a crash, they're going to be bent, and you might find it actually hard or impossible to ride out. These are a lot stronger. I'm yet to break any of these type of handlebars. I've bent a few, but the bends haven't been that bad that I couldn't continue riding. The cons are they are a little bit expensive, but when you're setting up a bike for long distance comfort, I find these work for me perfectly. Now, sticking with the handlebars and our controls, you'll see I've changed the clutch and brake levers here. I'm running these foldable adjustable levers. And the reason for that is I have small hands, so the standard ones didn't quite fit my reach, but also these ones being adjustable and actually pivot, they're a lot stronger in a crash, and hopefully we won't break them. So the pros are they're adjustable, good comfort for small hands, pivot in a crash, and what I do, I keep the originals as a spare. They'll fit in your standard little toolbox on the side, and it's just good insurance to have. The cons are the price, but if you look around, you might find some cheaper ones as I did. I found these on eBay, and again, I'll put the links in the description at the bottom. The final element to our controls at the front is actually the handguard protection. Now, I'm running the Australian-made Barkbusters here. I've been running them for years on all my bikes, and I can't fault them. Super strong, protect the levers, protect your hands. If you look closely, I've got the plastic Barkbuster Storm shields. They're the biggest that they come, and they're really good for keeping the wind and the rain off. I've done a Shonky modification, as you can see here. I actually heated them up with a heat gun, and I bent the top and bottom just to deflect the air even further and make them that little bit wider. This, for me, works perfectly. So the pros are crash protection, really strong, and really good wind and rain protection with these plastic storm guards attached. The cons, They are a little bit exy at $155. And in hot weather, you do get less airflow to your hands. So in hot weather, sometimes if it's in summer, I know it's not going to rain, I'll sometimes put the smaller jet plastic guards on and get a little bit more air. Another modification I've done is these homemade Steg Pegz, just to give your boots some purchase and help you with your grip on the bike. These are made from some door stoppers, and your boots bump up against them like that, and they hold your legs really secure. These were done quite easily. All I've done is drilled a hole through the pillion peg there. As you can see, I took a couple of goes to get the right position, and just bolted on the rubber doorstop. Cheap, easy, and really good grip. So pros, do it yourself. Great grip for your legs. Makes standing up, especially up hills, you are actually hanging on less with your arms and hanging on more with your legs. So it's a lot easier on the body, a lot more comfortable. The cons, well, really, there is a price, but it's pretty cheap. If you want to have a crack at this yourself, I'd say do it. Now, this next mod is nothing new, and everyone does it. It is tyres. So we changed from the standard tyres for more off-road grip and off-road traction. So the two are different. Grip is, I call front end grip, so for steering, and traction, that's the rear tyre getting traction so we can get up hills. So that's what we want if we're riding in, muddy terrain, off-road basically, we're going to upgrade the tyres. My choice here is the Michelin Starcross 5, and really that's just a pair I had in my shed, but they've been working really well. The cons, there's a cost involved, so I was able to get this set for under $200, but really you're looking at $200 plus for a set of tyres. You usually get less grip on tires, so you need to bear that in mind, and you can be in for some vibrations if you don't get them balanced. Now, another mod that a lot of people do is change the exhaust, and I've changed mine. I've got on the full Motorex exhaust from Barkbusters, and as you can see there, it looks pretty good. Now, for me, the reasons that I've changed it are, number one, for weight saving. The standard exhaust, while good and quiet, does weigh a bit. This Motorex one is a lot less weight. It sounds good and it looks good. The cons, it's expensive but a lot cheaper than any other full exhaust. Another con is it's louder. Now, let's not confuse sound with volume. You can have something that sounds good, but when you turn it up too loud, it is really loud and annoying. So you need to find that good compromise between the sound and the volume. And I'm in the photo there, you can see I'm running it without a baffle. That was just during a test phase, but I've got the baffle back in, and I've got a good sound level where it's not too loud, but it still sounds good. The next mod here is one I can't actually show you, but I'll have to talk about it. It's the ECU, the engine control unit, and I've changed that to one from the 550 Performance company. And the reasons I've done that is for more torque and power, smoother. What I mean by that is smoother on and off the throttle, and throughout the rev range, good power curve. So the cons, was quite expensive to get it here in Australia by the time it got shipped. And you need 91 octane, or for us here in Australia, they're 95 as a minimum, because the new tuning actually has it tuned to that fuel specification to get the little bit of extra power and torque out of it. And as you've seen, if you've watched my other videos, I really rate this mod. Now, one of the modifications I did straight away to this bike is actually change the gearing. I changed from a 40-tooth rear down to a 38-tooth rear. And there's a couple of reasons I did that. The number one reason was to lower the revs on the highway, just so the bike's that little bit more comfortable and you get a little bit more fuel economy out of it. The other advantage is it actually spreads out the power in the lower gears. So what I mean by that is when you're in, second, third, fourth, fifth, you're actually using the power. You can rev that gear out a little bit more. So you're not changing gears as much. And in the bush, really, I feel that I'm in third and fourth and sometimes just fourth gear. So accelerating in and out of corners on the straights, it's a lot better. The cons, there's a price involved. And the big con is you lose torque in sixth gear. But when you combine it with the ECU, you regain that torque, and overall, the two together are an awesome mod. Now, when we look at the other side of the bike, we come to another one of my favorite mods, which is the side stand mod. You might have seen my other video where I showed you how I did this, but really what it does is it extends the side stand And what that gives you is less lean on the bike when you put it over, and also extended the footprint of the bike. I put a bigger foot on the bottom, so that makes it more stable on soft ground. So the cons, you need a welder and you need a little bit of steel to weld in there. If you can do those two things, if you find your side stand is too short, this is a good fix. Now the last, but by no means least mod I want to talk about is the suspension. So I've had my suspension set up both front and rear. I've had the forks revalved and an extra spring put in, and I've had the shock both revalved and different spring put in, and they also put on a custom spring mount to give it a bit more preload. So why do we do this? The standard suspension, while it is nice and plush, once you start going fast, it does get a little bit dangerous. It bottoms out, and it probably is a little bit too dangerous for people like myself that are riding faster over rough ground. So the Pro, it's safer over rough ground, gives you really good control. The cons, it is expensive, so you're looking at minimum change the shock up to a full custom revalve, and also it can raise the height of the bike, so you need to keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we've looked at all my mods, let's talk about what I consider to be the top 5 mods. Now, we need to look at what is the bike being used for. What's our design brief? And for me, it's a lightweight adventure bike. So with that in mind, let's take a look at my number 1 mod, tyres. So tyres are what really makes this bike. Look, in stock form, with a totally stock bike with stock tyres, you can take this CRF300 Rally and ride it around the world, no problems at all. Nothing's going to stop you, unless you get to some slippery mud, some soft sand, any kind of off-road textured surface that the standard tyres won't grip on. That's when you need off-road tyres. So for me, off-road tyres are a must if you're going to ride this bike in the dirt. Number 2 is suspension. As I said earlier, if you're going to ride this bike fast, especially fast off-road, you need to set up the suspension. And even if you're not going to ride it fast, you should set up the suspension for your weight and what you're going to carry on the bike. Once you have the suspension set up for your weight and how you ride, it will totally transform the bike, and it will be not only safer, but more enjoyable to ride and comfortable. Number 3 for me is gearing. When I reduced the rear sprocket from a 40 tooth down to a 38 tooth, I just found the bike a whole lot more relaxing to ride. It dropped the revs just a little bit, makes it overall more comfortable on the highway. Now, to really complement that gearing, you need to change the ECU. I upgraded to that 550 Performance ECU, and the improvement in torque was outstanding. Once combined with that 38 rear sprocket, it's really how the bike should have come. So it makes 6 gear so much more usable. I can click it into 6 now at 60 or 70 kilometers an hour and have the torque there and the power to accelerate smoothly on the freeway or whatever road I am, up to 100 or more. The gearing and the ECU combined are just perfect for this bike. The final element to my top 5 mods is the screen. It just makes freeway and highway riding so much more comfortable. It directs the air over your head, there's no buffering, reduces the wind noise, and just makes the bike overall so much more comfortable to put in the big miles on. And as I said in my earlier part, once you fold it down, it's out of the way, and off-road, you don't even notice it. So there you have it. That's my top 5 mods for turning the 300 Rally into an awesome lightweight adventure bike that you could ride anywhere around the world if you wanted to. As you can see, I've put a lot more other mods than these top 5, but if I had to choose the top 5 mods and only do 5, this is what I would do. You can live with everything else on the bike, but to set up the ultimate lightweight adventure bike, these 5 things will transform the little Rally into an awesome all-day adventure bike. That's it for this video. I hope I've given you some food for thought about setting up your bike and what mods may or may not be worth it. At the end of the day, it comes down to you and what your preferences are. So So you've seen what I've done, what the bike's capable of, and just a few little things to turn it into an awesome lightweight adventure bike. I'd like to thank you for watching, and please, if you like the videos, click the subscribe button and I'll keep them coming. I've got a few big adventure rides coming up, so please make sure you stay tuned for those. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.